Well, good afternoon. I have worked with Dr. Abdullah in different capacities over the last 18 years or so. And I have worked with other physicians also, REIs, and he happened to be one of those who really is very passionate for his patients. So my task is basically to go over some of the slides and videos. So I thought to myself that, what should I include? So I thought let's have a little bit of a history trip and go back to the history of embryology. And then, excuse me, in my second part of my talk, I'll be talking about more the laboratory aspects of in vitro fertilization, talking about some sperm, showing some pictures, maybe entertaining, maybe not. So hang tight. Then some oocytes, and then what these two cells create, which is basically the embryos. So as far as the history goes, I think any science starts with a question, so we can speculate the history of embryology as old as the man is, because the man would have been thinking, where this thing is coming from. So historically, that's what I think, that those old people, they must be thinking about where this is coming from. So they ask a question, and the science emerges out of that question. But as far as the recorded history goes, Hippocrates is basically the first one in the recorded history to show that there is some explanation to this field of embryology. He was a big proponent of preformationism, which is depicted in this cartoon here, where it is believed that a human being lies in its miniature form within the cell. And ever since, this is in one way or another has been propagated. This is an arm of an evolutionary biologist who works at Syracuse University, and that's what he's depicting, that the miniature form of human being is sitting inside the sperm. So this is what was the first recorded observation in regards to embryology, followed by Aristotle, who you can call the first embryologist because he was making some observational studies on embryology. And he argued for genesis of life by theory of arising the life from amorphous form. So these are the two different stages, as you can see, that this amorphous form evolved, and finally it's all like speculative, but he made some observational studies as well. Followed by Galen of Pergamos, and he was more like of the opinion that there is some non-material vital form which gave rise to life, and he proposed like three pneumas, like pneuma of the heart, psyche, and appetite. So, and he was very popular among the theologians because he was saying something along the lines of breath of divine breath, or breath of God, which is like translated in Hebrew as a ruach, and also in Arabic as a ruh, that something is blown into a non-material and then becomes a material. So walking down the history lines, we have the famous Da Vinci, Leonardo da Vinci. We all know him by his work, the Mona Lisa painting, the Last Supper, and the Vitruvian Man. But very few of us know that he also drew drawings of fetus. He was able to do some dissections, and then he argued for a quantitative measurement of human fetus, which means the fetus developed over the period of time, going through different sizes and different shapes and different weight. Then followed by William Harvey, who was the first one to make micro observations of embryos. So he didn't make the observations with a high-powered microscope, but very low-powered lenses he used, And he also propagated the idea of a gradual appearance of fetus as opposed to what Hippocrates was saying. Now, fast forward to 1978, the milestone. Everybody knows that here at Bourne Hall in UK, these two gentlemen, Steptoe and Bob Edward, they announced the birth of a baby, the first IVF baby. And in recognition to Bob Edwards' work, he was awarded Nobel Prize in 2010, if I'm not wrong. Here he is. And then very fast, going through very fastly through 80s and 90s and 2000s, the clinical embryology emerged, and it brought a hope for a lot of people who wanted to have children, enjoy the parenthood. And comes 1990, when severe male factors patients could also have the hope of being father, when ICSI was invented. And then also in 1990s, there were certain media or certain lab progresses they were made, and we ended up having ability to grow embryo to the blastocyst stage. Also, some of the cryopreservation or the freezing techniques emerged, like vitrification, which opened the door for fertility preservation in cancer patients or for social reasons. Not too long ago, well, a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago, there was a merger of genetics and reproductive medicine, especially the molecular biology techniques or molecular genetic techniques. They emerged and they were applied to reproductive medicine, especially when we embryologists were able to do embryo biopsy and test the genetics of the embryos at different stages using FISH technique or comparative genomic hybridization, and more lately, next-gen sequencing, which would help us in deselecting the chromosomally abnormal embryos as well as a single gene defect embryos. And recently, there is also some advances in screening the embryos for polygenic diseases, but it's not ready for the prime time yet, I believe.